Welcome back. Over the last sessions, we've explored how memories are formed, why deep processing matters, how context shapes what we recall, and the uncomfortable truth that memory is not a video camera, it's a construction. Today, we're answering a different question. How do memories actually come back to us? Sometimes a memory hits you instantly, effortlessly, without trying. Other times, you know the information is in there, you can feel it, but you cannot pull it out. You say, "It's on the tip of my tongue." Why does that happen? Why do some memories surface instantly while others hide? And why does a single song can transport you back to being 17 years old? Let's get started. Part 1. Retrieval is largely automatic. First, let's talk about the memories that don't require effort. A massive amount of memory retrieval happens automatically. You don't decide to remember. The memory simply arrives, triggered by a cue in your environment, whether you want it to or not. Example, the exit sign over the door. You are in a theater. The fire alarm sounds. Everyone needs to exit immediately. Above the door is a large illuminated red sign that reads "Exit" in bold white letters. What happens automatically? You do not consciously decide to read the sign. You do not think, "I should now process the semantic meaning of those 4 letters." Your brain automatically and mandatorily retrieves the meaning. Exit equals way out equals go there. This happens whether you want it to or not in under a second. You cannot suppress it. The Stroop parallel. You may know the Stroop effect, the classic psychology demonstration where the word blue is printed in red ink, and you cannot stop yourself from reading the word even though you're supposed to name the color. Reading is automatic. Meaning is mandatory. The real-world irony: if the sign were written in a language you do not speak, you would not experience automatic retrieval. You would see shapes, not meaning. The Stroop effect disappears. This proves that the interference is not from visual features, it is from automatically activated semantic knowledge. This automaticity is life-saving in emergencies. But it also demonstrates something fundamental. Once you have learned something deeply, your brain no longer gives you a choice about retrieving it. Part 2. Effortful recollection, the tip of the tongue state. But not all retrieval is automatic. Sometimes you have to work for it. Psychologists call this effortful recollection. And the most famous example is the tip of the tongue phenomenon. You know it. You can feel it. But you cannot quite pull it out. Example, the actor's name at dinner. You are at a dinner party. Someone mentions the movie Inception. You want to say, the lead actor also played Batman. You know his face. You know he's British. You know he was in The Prestige and Insomnia. You know his ex-wife is also a famous actress. You know the name starts with C. The tip of the tongue state. You say it's, "Oh God, it's right there. He was also in that movie about the magicians. Christopher. Something." Your friend offers, "Christian Bale." You know the other one. He is taller. Dark hair. He was in A Beautiful Mind. Another friend, "Russell Crowe." You know. God, why can't I remember this? The resolution. 10 minutes later in the car, it hits you. Christopher Nolan. Wait, no, Nolan is the director. The actor is Christian Bale? No, that's Batman. The actor is Cillian Murphy. Wait, no, he was in Inception, but he's not Batman. You're mixing them up. Finally, you shout, "Christian Bale." You were right the first time. The interference from Christopher Nolan and Cillian Murphy blocked retrieval. The principle, tip of the tongue, is not simple forgetting. It is partial access. You have the semantic network activated, Batman, British prestige magicians. You have phonological fragments, the C sound. But the full phonological form of the correct node is temporarily inhibited or inaccessible. The effortful search is you actively navigating this network using cues to find the blocked pathway. You are not retrieving a file. You are searching a web. Part 3: Why we remember neural reactivation. So, what actually happens in your brain when a memory returns? Core principle: we remember an event because recalling it involves a partial reactivation of the same brain state that was present when the memory was originally encoded. Sensory, emotional, strategic. The same regions light up again. Example: the song that brings back your first love. The original encoding: you are 17. You are in the passenger seat of a car. It's raining. Person you are falling in love with is driving. A specific song plays on the radio, something by The National or Adele or Coldplay. Your brain encodes the visual of rain on the windshield, the warmth of the car, the scent of their perfume, the nervous excitement in your chest, the lyrics of the song, the specific chord progression. The retrieval: 10 years later, you are in a grocery store. That song comes over the speakers. You stop walking. For a moment, you are 17 again. You feel the butterflies. You see the rain. You smell that perfume. The neuroscience: neuroimaging studies show that when people listen to music associated with autobiographical memories, their auditory association cortex and medial prefrontal cortex show reactivation patterns that overlap with those observed during the original experience. The memory is not a separate file. It is a reassembly of the original neural configuration. You are not playing back a recording. You are partially reliving the experience. Part 4: Why retrieval fails interference. So, if retrieval is sometimes automatic and sometimes effortful and sometimes beautifully transportive, why does it fail? One major reason: interference. We don't forget because memories fade away like ink on paper. We forget because other memories get in the way. There are two kinds. Retroactive interference: new learning disrupts the recall of old information. You forget an old password after setting a new one. Proactive interference: old learning disrupts the acquisition or recall of new information. You struggle to learn how to use a new computer system because the rules of your old system keep intruding. Example: the new employee's name. You work in a department with 15 people. A beloved colleague, Sarah, leaves. A new colleague, also named Sarah, joins. You work with new Sarah daily. You attend meetings with her. You email her. You say her name constantly. 6 months later, you run into old Sarah at a conference. You know her face instantly. You shared 3 years of projects and coffee breaks. Her name is on the tip of your tongue. You say hi. Hi. Oh my God, it's so good to see you. Sarah. You got it right, but you hesitated. That hesitation is retroactive interference. Your daily retrieval of new Sarah has weakened your exclusive association between the face of old Sarah and the name Sarah. Now two faces compete for the same phonological label. Retrieval is slower, less certain. The real-world consequence: if new Sarah had been named something else, Jessica, for example, you would have no interference. The problem is similarity. Retroactive interference is maximized when new and old information are structurally similar, share the same category, or require the same response. Part 5: Context and State, the Memory Time Machine. There is another reason retrieval succeeds or fails, and it has nothing to do with how well you learn the information. It has to do with where you are and how you feel. Psychologists call this state-dependent and context-dependent memory. The principle is simple. Retrieval is often better when the internal state or external context at recall matches the state or context present during encoding. Example, the childhood home time machine. You grew up in a house on Elm Street. You moved away at 18. Now at 35, your parents sell the house. You return one last time to clear out your old room. What happens? The moment you step through the front door, memories flood back, not just vague recollections, but specific sensory-rich episodes. The smell of the hallway, creak of the third stair, the pattern of afternoon light in the kitchen. You remember hiding under the dining table during a thunderstorm. You remember the sound of your father's key in the lock at 6:05 p.m. You remember the exact feel of the cold linoleum on your bare feet. Why? The physical environment, the layout, the smells, the acoustics was encoded alongside countless childhood experiences. Returning to that context reinstates the neural states present during encoding. The house is not just a place. It is a retrieval cue for an entire era of your life. This is why high school reunions are often held at the school itself. Why people visit their old neighborhood. Why soldiers return to battlefields. The context holds the memories hostage until you return. Part 6. Transfer appropriate processing, matching the test to the learning. There is one more principle of retrieval you need to understand. It may be the most practical one yet. The transfer appropriate processing model. The core idea, memory retrieval is most effective when the method of retrieval matches the way the information was encoded. This is about real-world competence. Example, the medical student's diagnostic error. A medical student studies cardiology by reading textbooks and memorizing lists of symptoms for different conditions. She scores 95% on written exams. The clinical rotation, she sees a patient with chest pain. She cannot generate a differential diagnosis. She knows the lists, but she cannot retrieve them in the context of a real patient with overlapping symptoms, incomplete history, and time pressure. Why? Her encoding was organized by disease. Lists of symptoms for each condition. Clinical diagnosis requires retrieval organized by symptom. Given chest pain, what are the possibilities? Her encoding operations do not match the retrieval operations required in practice. The better approach, case-based learning. Simulated patients. Practice that aligns encoding with retrieval. That is transfer-appropriate processing. And it applies to everything, not just medicine. If you need to speak a language in conversation, don't just memorize vocabulary lists. Have conversations. If you need to give speeches, don't just read about public speaking. Stand up and speak. How you encode predicts how you will retrieve. Align them and memory serves you. Misalign them and all that study evaporates at the moment you need it most. Conclusion. Memory is a meeting between past and present. So let's bring this together. 1. Much of retrieval is automatic. You cannot stop yourself from reading an exit sign, just as you cannot stop yourself from knowing the meaning of words you have read thousands of times. 2. But some retrieval is effortful. Tip of the tongue is not forgetting, it is partial access. You have the network. You have the fragments. You are searching for the key. 3. Remembering is neural reactivation. That song that brings you back to your first love? Your brain is literally reassembling the state it was in 17 years ago. That is not metaphor. That is neuroscience. 4. Retrieval fails because of interference. New Sarah makes you hesitate at old Sarah's name. Similar memories compete. Problem is not decay. The problem is competition. 5. Context is a retrieval cue. Your childhood home is a time machine. Your high school hallway holds your 17-year-old self hostage until you walk it again. 6. And finally, transfer appropriate processing. How you learn determines how you remember. If you want to retrieve information in a certain way, you must encode it in that same way. There is no shortcut. Memory is not a library where books sit untouched until requested. It is a living, dynamic system. Every retrieval changes the memory slightly. Every context reinstates a different configuration. Every interference reshapes the pathways. Your memory is not a recording of your past. It is a meeting place between your past and your present. And the more you understand how that meeting works, the more you understand the cues, the context, the interference, the alignment, the less mysterious it becomes. Pay attention to the songs that stop you in grocery stores. Pay attention to the names that get stuck on your tongue. Pay attention to the hallways that transport you back in time. Your memory is speaking to you. Listen. See you next time.